Welcome to a little bit of art, my friends. This lesson is intended for my older artists. So it's going to be best if you're probably in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade in order for you to complete this. There's just a lot of fine details that I think might be harder for the younger ones to work on. I don't want to discourage you from doing that. I'm just letting you know that this takes a little bit more fine motor skills and a little bit of practice. So what everybody needs is a sheet of paper. So whether or not you get your piece of paper from your sketchbook or you just have some other paper, I'm not using copy paper. The paper I'm using is a sulfite paper. You can get this on Amazon. So I just had a pack of 500 papers delivered to me, and I believe it cost me about $9. So the brand is called Sax, S-A-X, and it's called sulfite paper, and it's 80 or 90 pound. And so I got 500 sheets for about $9, $10. So it'll last me, and I'll bring it to school when we're all done with this little bit of craziness that's going on in our lives right now. So we'll have more paper at school. Anyway, let's look at this. So what I've done and what you're going to need today, you're going to need pencils. And you're going to notice I have a regular graphite pencil and then I have a mechanical pencil. You don't need both of them, but I'm going to just kind of show you what I did with the two. I have an eraser because I know you guys are going to need that. And I have a Sharpie. And then I have some colored pencils. So you really do want to use colored pencils. If you don't have colored pencils, you can go ahead and use a crayon. You're going to have to just be really careful when you're drawing your swirls and that type of thing to get them fine and to press hard and light in different areas. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to go over with you is your telescope. I just want you to look at the spacing of my telescope, where I put it on my paper. It doesn't go all the way to the bottom of my paper, if you'll notice that. It's floating up a little bit ahead. It's also going to be on the left half of my paper. And the reason why is I want to make sure I have enough space up here to draw the brilliant sky or what I'm seeing coming out of my telescope. Okay? So I want you to make sure that when you're drawing this, it does go a little bit over. You know, if I were to fold my paper in half, you're going to notice that, you know, a little bit of it does go over, and that's fine. But I just don't want you drawing it way over here so then you don't have any room for your sky. I think you'll be disappointed if that's how you choose to do it. Okay, so now that I've kind of talked a little bit about spacing, if I measure, I'm about 3 fingers up from the bottom and how I'm going to start. But I am going to start with this shape right here in the middle of my paper. So I want to go ahead and show you what that's going to look like. So here I have my sheet of paper. I'm going to start with just my regular graphite pencil. When I drew this one, I drew this 100% with my mechanical pencil. My other ones that I've drawn with just my graphite pencil. And I'm going to show you what I want you to be able to do between the two. So I'm going to start maybe about 2 fingers, 3 fingers away from the edge of my paper here, and I'm going to draw sort of a cone. So I want to start off with my pencil drawing up that way, and then here. Now I'm going to notice that's probably, can you see what I'm drawing here? Let me move my camera down. There we go. It's probably too wide. Do you see how I did that? That's probably too wide. So I'm going to go ahead and erase one of my lines. I'll press a little harder so you can see better. There we go. So now I have those lines on there. That's probably the width that I'm looking for, okay? Now, if I use a mechanical pencil, my lines are going to be a lot finer, and I really do want those fine lines on there. So I drew this hard, and I wouldn't have done that if I was just drawing it normally, but I'll draw with my mechanical pencil so you can see better, and then my lines will still be fine. So I want to go down here, and I'm just going to elongate that neck to give it where my eyepiece would go for my telescope. And then I'm going to go to the top, and I need to make that curve. So I want my top to be just a tiny bit longer than my bottom. So I just elongated that, and I want to make a curve for my lens. And I want my lens to be a little bit bigger than my actual telescope, okay? So my lens is gonna go up. I'm gonna encase it with these two edges, and then I wanna create that curve. All right, now pause me at any time because you can go back and you can work on this and then we can move on to the next step once you get that part done. But really you wanna work on that, really making sure it's what you want it to look like. So, you know, I'm looking at my other one that I did and I'm thinking, okay, well maybe this one is not quite narrow enough, so I might wanna go back through and clean that up. This is why having that extra white eraser is really helpful. Do you see the difference between using that pencil and my other one? But if you're pressing lightly at this point, it doesn't matter, you're okay. I'm gonna elongate this just a tiny bit. Hear my cuckoo clock in the background? It's lunchtime at Mrs. Hillman's house. All right, so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and enclose this, and in order to do that, I'm just gonna give it another little half circle. It's not looking three-dimensional yet, so what I also need to do is then go in here and put another line across there. So maybe bring it closer to you so you can see. See how I did that? I've added that extra line. Okay, now that I've done this part, I want to go ahead, before I do any of my shading, I just want to draw the whole thing out first. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to give myself a U. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw another U underneath it, okay? Let me see if I can focus this a little bit better. Oh my goodness, a bird just hit the window. Poor bird. Okay, back to art. So you see how I have drawn this part? This is what I'm working on right now, okay? Here, we'll put these next to each other so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. All right, so I've drawn this part. This is going to be the part that holds my telescope up, and I'm going to give myself a little flat lever piece here that I'm going to color in just a few minutes, but I'm going to divide it. From here, I want to go ahead and give it my legs. My legs are going to be relatively narrow. Now, if you're having a hard time drawing a straight line, get something that you can use as an edge piece. And I mean, it can be as simple as like my box of crayons. If I wanted to, I could lay my box of crayons right next to me. Go ahead and trace the edge of it. See how it's going to give me that nice straight line. Obviously, if you have a ruler handy. But my ruler is in the other room where everybody's doing their homework. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I've done that. Now I want to go ahead and I'm going to give it a second line right next to it. And again, you can use that ruler or a straight edge of something. I'm going to just hand draw it here. And I'm sure you can see now why I really like using the mechanical pencil, because it's making super fine lines right now. Now, again, if my pencil was sharpened, it would be, but I do want to keep this, so I'm going to use it in a minute. I'm going to bring a third one down in the center, and I'm actually going to make this one just a tad bit longer. So it gives it the illusion that it's coming forward, okay? Now, see how I have a little bump in there? That's easy. We just go back through, erase a tiny bit of it. And again, if you're using the straight edge of something, you're not gonna have those lines like I have mine. Okay, all right, so now I have the basic shape drawn. Now what I wanna go ahead and do is do some shading. So I'm gonna start off by just putting some little lines on it to give it that definition. Please notice that I've curved them slightly. When I go ahead and give it that curve, it gives it that illusion that this is a curved piece, that it's a cone. We don't want it to look like it's flat. So I'm just going through and giving it a few different pieces. And then I'm going to go through and start doing some shading, okay? And that's when this pencil comes in handy. So here I just am going to take it and darken up a few of my edges to give it that shadow that it's more than just a flat piece, okay? I'm going to shade this in. I'm even going to shade in one side is going to be, I'm going to use my pencil for this. One side is going to be darker than my other side. Okay, and that just gives it the illusion that it has a shadow behind it. All right, so you can go through and just start adding these. Now what I want to go ahead and do is using this pencil, so I'm going to go ahead and do some shading here. And I'm going to go lightly over the whole thing with my graphite pencil. This is when it's really nice to have a dull pencil, so you don't get, right now you can see my pencil lines. See those pencil lines in there? But what I'm going to do, as soon as I get this colored in, I'm going to go ahead and smear it with my finger. And what it's going to do now is give it, do you see that softer gray? Do you see how it went from just being the pencil lines to a softer gray? Okay? All right, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to start filling that in with your details. I'm going to move on to another telescope I have here. So you can see on this telescope, I did this one in without my sharp pencil. So I'm going to go back through this now. Now that I've drawn it and I've softened it, I want to go back through and add my sharp definition. So I really like that I have that dusting of graphite behind it that gives it that shadow. But then I also want to go through and just highlight things to make it a little bit darker. All right? So you're going to work on this part next. Use that finger to smear that graphite. And if it gets too out of control, then go back over it and just go around the edges and clean up your edges so it's nice and clean. All right, once I have this shaded in, and you know, I've shaded in my legs down here at the bottom. I'm not going to do that right now. I showed you here in this one how to give that shadow on the bottom here. I want you to go ahead and go through and you want to darken the bottom of this. So I want to make this part darker because what it does is it creates that curve. Now I can go up and down or I can go side to side, but whatever I do, I want to do the same direction all the way down my piece. Okay? So while you're working on this, you can think about the color combination you want to do for your brilliant pieces that are coming out of your telescope, all right? Maybe it's your night sky. You want to think about the color combination. So you can see I did some greens, I did purples and blues, and I did red and orange. Part of me thinks this is too much color, like the red and orange maybe could have been left out and I could have stuck with the blues and greens. But I want it to be yours and I want you to be able to think about the color combinations you want. One of the things that's really important is that you are able to use more than just one. So I don't want just red, I want to be able to mix it with another color. And so if I had a selection of colored pencils that gave me like pinks and reds, that would be a really great combination. Okay, once I have that, I'm going to take my finger again and soften it. Okay, and now I'm also going to go along it and I'm going to create these tiny like X patterns. So I want to see if you can see how I've done that. It's this hash marks. So you see how I've taken, here we go. My camera's moving. All right. How I've taken lines and I've drawn them this way and then this way. They're crisscross. I'm going to do that all the way down. So it's going to give it that, another illusion that that is giving weight to the bottom of my telescope, okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead, oops, my pencil's under there. I'm going to go ahead and continue down. All the way down my telescope. And I'm going to leave it right here. I'm not going to do that. Maybe I'll change the direction of to give it that weight. Okay, so once I have this portion done, and I've done all my pencil parts, I can definitely rub over it to soften everything and then use my eraser to clean up around it. Okay? Now my telescope is ready for me to go ahead and give the next portion. And I did this with my pencil. So I wanted to give myself just an idea of how I wanted these pieces to come out. And then after I did that with my pencil, I was able to go ahead and sort of change things. So the pencil doesn't have to keep it just like that, but having that outlined before you start coloring makes a big difference. So I'm going to start from I'm putting a little dot right there. I'll do it with this so you can see. A little dot right there, and then I'm just going to bring out my lines to the edge. Okay? You really don't want this to go below your telescope. You really want to keep it up into this center part. Now this can become thicker as you start adding pieces to it, but what you really want to do from here is just to bring out lines that are going to go ahead and create that really neat piece for you. Going through and creating maybe a piece like this, and then breaking this into smaller chunks, okay? So it doesn't have to all stay the same. And as you do this, you want to think about what parts of these are going to be black, what parts of them am I going to add color to, okay? So if I'm thinking about that, where am I going to make those divisions? And you want to just start breaking that into pieces, all right? So I would go through here with my pencil and just break that into some different pieces for myself. And remember, I'm going to want each of these to maybe be a different color. I really like these loops that come out. I like being able to color some of those. This one right here, I'm probably going to take my Sharpie, do it right now and show you, and pull it all the way down, because I feel like it needs to shoot out from my swirl, okay? All right, so once you have this portion finished and you have it, you think you have it, I will tell you that as I was coloring mine, I definitely did a few changes as I went through. You don't have to keep it. Now, the first thing that I did once I had my pencils down was that I took a black colored pencil. My gosh, I couldn't remember the name of it for a second. And I went through and outlined everything. Now you could, if you wanted to, do this with a thin Sharpie instead. So if you had one of these, the ultra fine tip Sharpies like this, you could go through and you could outline it that way. But I decided I wanted to just stick with this. And maybe on this one I'll do it differently than I did here, but you can see I used my black. I definitely sharpened my colored pencils as I colored. I will tell you that I think colored pencils sharpen better with a handheld sharpener than they do with an electric sharpener. So you might want to think about that as you're going. Now, maybe you want to stop before you even start tracing and you want to think about where you're going to put those black pieces in here. So for instance, if this was going to be where I put my black piece, I would go ahead and do that and then color it in, all right? The other thing to think about too is like when you start choosing your colors to go through your picture, I want you to think about where you're going to put some swirls in. So the swirls are going to sort of be these darker threads that come through, and it allows it to have movement. And you want to bring those and make them wider and narrower as you go. So you don't want it to all just be one length. So for instance, if I have purple here and I'm going to bring purple up into this one, I want to maybe start by doing that first. So I have my purple, I'm pressing nice and hard. I even broke it. I was pressing so hard, and I want to widen that, bring it all the way down, okay? And then I colored it in, and maybe maybe the whole thing is purple, and I'm going to go ahead and put some light purple around the edges of it. I haven't colored or traced this piece yet, but my pencil's I pressed pretty hard with my pencil here. And you can erase those pencil lines too, if you do that in marker first, okay? So, another thing too is maybe I want to add, I didn't draw it in yet here, but maybe I want to add a thickness of black right here. All right, and you can go through. So you can go now at this point and just start adding all your different portions that you want to add to your piece, all those different colors and the swirls that you're going to put in there. It's really fun. It's very relaxing to sit and color like this. And it's fun because you can I'm excited because I have like 3 more that I get to make because I have all these samples I've done for you guys. Okay, the very last thing I want to show you, and I haven't done it on this one yet, is if you have a white marker. I have a paint pen here. If you have any of these at home, this is really fun. I don't know if a white, let's try. So you could get away with doing a little bit of it on some of these, but you can go ahead and put stars in your telescope sky. So if you wanted to. And this is just with my white colored pencil. but I can also use my white paint pen. Paint pens can sometimes be wonderful. Sometimes they can be horrible. It just depends on how finicky they're being. So we'll see. Sometimes my paint pens puddle. Sometimes you can't see them at all. So that one doesn't even want to stand out on the Sharpie. So, you know, again, if you have this or you have metallic markers, the Crayola metallic markers are fantastic. I don't have any here at home. I only have those at school. But they really make really great, look at those. They don't even want to stay. The metallic markers then would really make great sparkles in your sky. Okay, so have fun playing around with this. When you're done, send me a picture. You can send it to my school email. You can just type my name in and my school email will come up and you can send me a picture of it, or you can send me a picture on Facebook or on Instagram at Arts at Plaster Academy, because I would love to see these, or text me if you have my phone number, okay? All right, friends, I hope you have a great time doing this. I really want you to share these with me. I was excited about this and thought it would be a fun activity for you older kiddos. So enjoy and really take your time with it and have fun. All right, talk to you soon.